if Canada continues on its current trajectory, I don't see how it can exist in another 20 years, maybe even less than that. We're already seeing indigenous populations successfully sue. There was one lawsuit that was just won out west, and now there are hundreds of similar lawsuits that are in the works across Canada. Our military spending for the past 11 years has been about 1.3% of GDP. If you've seen any recent military marches, Canada's military is pathetically weak, and our Arctic area is more of interest to Russia and China than it has been for an extremely long period of time. If we don't have the United States as a partner, we're going to be unable to defend ourselves. You combine that with the social discohesion we're seeing because of the record right now in Canada right now. They're bringing the equivalent of a British Columbia worth of immigrants into the country every 4.5 years, 3% population growth from 1947 to 2015, 0.5% in Canada. Trudeau jacked it up from 2015 to 2001 to 1.3%, a massive increase. And now it's at a whopping unheard of 3% population growth. 26.4% of all Canadians are now first generation. Do you think that these are people that are overwhelmingly going to fight to defend Canada when we do see the next conflict in the world? And there is a conflict coming for sure. The world is changing, and at the same time the world is changing, we're antagonizing the United States of America. Look at a map. We need America a hell of a lot more than they need us. And the Liberal Party of Canada under Trudeau and now under Carney have virtue signaled the United States and Donald Trump about how much better they are. Meanwhile, you look at a comparison between the economy of the United States of America and the United States of Canada over the past 11 years. It's no comparison. GDP per capita, which is generally considered to be the best measure of how your average citizen is doing. Past 10 years in the States, the average growth GDP per capita per year is 2%. 2% for the past decade. Guess what it is in Canada? The entire time, GDP per capita, the best measure of how your average citizen is doing, 0.2%. Our economy has been cratered due to this ridiculous, insane, unneeded mass immigration, along with all these green grift initiatives that get Mark Carney and his buddies rich as hell. We don't export our oil, we don't export our LNG, we don't take advantage of our potash. And meanwhile, Mark Carney through Brookfield Asset Management is absolutely fine and dandy for him to make money hand over fist in these industries as long as it's done in Canada. When he's located in Canada, he's overwhelmingly concerned about the CO2 emissions, despite the fact that Canadians account for between 1.5% and 2% of all CO2 emissions. Meanwhile, China alone emits a third of the Earth's CO2. If you actually want us to make an impact in terms of CO2, even though it's a totally BS argument anyway, but even if you did want to make an impact, you'd export LNG to China. But they can't make money off that. It's a complete grift. Then you bring in 3% of your population immigrants for 5 consecutive years. Unprecedented, insane. Same time as youth male unemployment rate is 22%. You have a housing crisis. And these are all policies. These are all policies that have been signed off on by Mark Carney, who's been a chief economic advisor for Trudeau the entire time. He spent his life at WF Davos, Brookfield Asset Management. You think he gives two shits about what's good for the average Canadian citizen? I can guarantee you the answer to that is no. You just look at the way he condescendingly speaks to the Canadian media on a consistent basis. He's one of those politicians who you can tell he doesn't want to tell the truth. He's all clear speech patterns of an individual who's lying. He can't give you a straight up answer. He flip-flops on absolutely everything. He talked about how running up to his election, he was the guy who was going to stop Trump, who was this unique threat to the world. Then he gets elected and he kisses the guy's ass. The guy is a global elitist banker who could give two shits about what's going on for the average Canadian citizen. We see that in the fact that Brookfield Asset Management is up 45% since he's been elected. 45% their stocks are up. Carney owns 600 stocks, over 90% of which are from the United States. Yeah, Canada first. And while $63 billion in investment have left Canada since Carney was elected, he personally, on his 600 stocks, is up an average of 40 some odd percent. He's not governing on the best interest of Canada. Brookfield signed an $80 billion deal in the States to make them the clean energy leader in the world. And if he cared about Canada's economy, he'd stop these immigration rates, because it's undeniable, regardless of what you think of, whether you know that eventually this type of demographic displacement leads to severing, which brings me back to the point of Canada not being able to survive for the next 20 years. Look at what's going to happen. What does it even mean to be a Canadian? We've switched into this just catch-all diversity. Diversity is our strength. That when you think about that, it doesn't even make sense. It's not a value. Diversity is not a value. Canadians used to be known as courageous bearers of the North, defenders of the North. And they've transformed that into this virtue signaling woke BS that means nothing and leaves us with no national identity. I'm sorry, but a trans LGBT flag is not a national identity. It's one of these identity politics things that the global elite want us to buy into to cause strife. They intentionally bring these massive levels of immigration in, knowing that eventually it's going to cause strife because they need a distraction while they loot the country. So if we don't get a total moratorium on immigration, total moratorium, no more people coming in for at least the next, 5 years until the Canadian economy can recover, it's the only way you're not going to see a revolt in Canada. Yeah, it's just walking around every city in this country. It's, at least I've seen Montreal, Toronto, and Ottawa. It's overwhelming. It's so obvious how radically the country has changed. Please like, share, subscribe, join, become a member, donate, grab some gear. We appreciate everybody's supports.